Thank you very much, Chairman Sir. Now I'd like to introduce the speaker for the day, Mr. Praveen Poddar. So, Mr. Praveen Poddar is a data and AI specialist with the worldwide public sector at Amazon. And he is the compliance manager of Amazon. And he leads deep tech innovation initiatives across AI. A seasoned technology leader and business strategy, he enables government bodies and industry organizations to leverage advanced technology as catalyst for growth, helping them integrate domain expertise with transformative digital capabilities. With over 17 years of experience spanning software engineering, solution architecture, and specialized technology sales, Praveen has demonstrated consistent progression across delivery, pre-sales, and business development role. His work reflects a strong focus on scalable digital transformation, data-driven decision making, and next-generation cloud solution. With these words, I welcome Mr. Praveen Poddarji, and I'd like to request Chairman Sir to kindly felicitate Mr. Praveen Poddar with a memento and a Uttoryu. Huge round of applause. Thank you, Chairman Sir. So, Praveen Sir, the stage is all yours. You can start with your deliberations.
Thanks everyone to invite me here in Kolkata for this seminar on AI. This is Praveen Poddar. I work as a data and AI lead for WWPF India in Amazon. Okay, so most of this data and AI related stuff, wherever in this India, I mean for government agencies or for ed tech or for healthcare, I generally look after, those things. So I generally come across, multiple use cases like building large language model for India itself, like, Bharat Gen is actually building it. So many of the use cases, some of the use cases I will be sharing with you today, in which I am actually working or I am helping. So start with this word generative AI. Okay. So we all are hearing this word generative AI, and there is a lot of hype around this particular word. What exactly is happening? Everyone is scared. Some people are quite happy as well that, okay, my life get easy. My life is getting too easy sometime. Or am I actually required now? I mean, because it's too easy, so everyone can do this. As a professional, whether I will be required or not. Trust me, I am also equally scared. Because most of the time, this generative AI, what can I say, like, it makes coder life. I mean, I'm a techie, I'm from a techie background, so I have seen it like, some of the complex code can be written by, some of the naive people as well now, okay? And even a fresher or an experienced guy can write the similar code with a very good quality. So there is a lot of hype around this. There is a lot of good thing it can do, but again, we have all seen like, there are places where this generative AI is not actually working quite well. This is right now the status of like, 2025. But when we see like, it has started in 2021 or 22, from there on it has improved a lot. We'll see like, how much it has improved. And then if this is the situation in 2025 down the line, 5 years or 4 years, what will happen? Okay, what work it can do, how I have to change, what companies are going to do. Of course, in tech industry, I mean, lot of use cases are there with generative AI. And we are seeing like, many of the companies like SAP, Salesforce, ServiceNow, they are actually rethinking about processes across different industries. Like, even in the banking, in the finance, everywhere where, lot of repetition or repetitive work was there, whether it can be automated via generative AI or use of generative AI, and whether it can get, I mean, it can get you some efficiency or not. So all those things, are coming into the picture now. Why? Because large language models are getting cheaper, okay? And I mean, if you feel like every year from now, I mean, you can take any large language model. I think day before yesterday only, this ChatGPT has announced its model 5.2. I think 3 months ago only they have released this 5.1. Okay, 3 months or 2 months ago only. So the life cycle of development is getting faster right now. So whatever you are getting currently, in 3 months of time, it is getting older. I mean, it's getting, kind of legacy. Okay. So every few months you are getting new things. Then why you are getting new things? Because initially for training the model, you need to have some kind of data. Now this data can also be generated by these models. Okay. So now, because those synthesized data or synthetic data can be generated by this large language model, you can generate those data in a large volume automatically. So training of newer models becoming easier. Apart from that, why industry is actually betting on this? Because when you have these kind of model, the data, data creation cost is getting low, chips are getting cheaper, okay, all those things when it is there, the pricing of the model becoming cheaper. I mean, you are seeing right now, like OpenAI has given for almost like how much? I mean, that OpenAI Go, I mean, ChatGPT Go is almost free for 1 year in India. Gemini is giving 1.5 years. Then you are seeing Perplexity is giving you 1 year. Okay. So the thing is, it's getting cheaper. In future, again, it will become more cheap. You are seeing a lot of open source model as well, like Llama is there. There are a lot of open source model. So every company is seeing this as an opportunity to reduce their cost. Now, to reduce their cost, not not compromising the quality, not compromising the efficiency, but they are seeing which process they can optimize. Okay, of course, this is actually happening across industry, be it tech industry, be it manufacturing industry, be it finance. Everywhere you will see that this momentum is going on. When you see the history, okay, so the first model, we start with that GPT-2 1.5 billion. See the size, that 1.5 billion, we call it weight, okay, or we call it parameter. So when this GPT 1.5 billion has started, that was the first, the chat GPT, okay, what we commonly refer as chat GPT. It was having a parameter of 1.5 billion in 2020, or not, sorry, not 2019 one, that GPT-3, 175 billion, okay, when this aura of this generative AI has started. And if you see, during 2023 itself, it's 1.6 trillion parameters. The more number of parameter means the model will be more accurate, it will have more reasoning capability. Nowadays, if you feel like, even the large language models has passed almost like 10 trillion parameter capability. So that means within 3 years, these models has been like, performed almost like 10 to 20 times better. Now this is like 3 years we are talking about, and every 3 months we are seeing a new model. So what I mean to say, when we said 175 billion parameter, when it has all started, in 3 years it becomes almost like 4 trillion or 5 trillion. In next 3 years, I don't know where it will reach, okay? But it is reaching at a very enormous speed right now. So just think that what will happen in 3 years. So why I'm saying this thing? Because ultimately everyone has this question that what AI will do, whether it will replace us or not. So the simple answer is, at this point of time, it cannot replace you, for sure, because it has limited reasoning capability. Okay, I mean, even it is at 10 trillion parameter space, or more than 5 trillion, you can say. Still, there are gaps. But down the line, 3 years, what will happen, we can't say. It will become more powerful for sure. So now for you guys or for us, techie like us, most of the repetitive work or most of the mid-level reasoning work will definitely be taken by this AI. Now it's time for us to get change or get evolved with this AI. Of course, if you will not evolve, it will wipe out. It will wipe you out for sure. Okay. So you have to understand what exactly these AI work. It's not only about, just chatting what you are doing with ChatGPT or with Gemini. It's much more than that, what it actually is right now doing. Okay. So, of course, we have seen like, these are some of the use cases, generic use cases in the industry, what we are seeing right now, the text generation, video generation, image generation, even music generation is also happening, summarization, report creation, code generation in my industry, then classification. There are many things this AI is right now doing. And these use cases are evolving over a period of time. I can just give you an example, like, some of the companies, okay, they are buying some kind of robotic arm, okay, because these models will be so powerful and sooner, like, which household work will be done by these robots, okay, because they will understand all your things way better than right now what it is happening, okay. So, first, wanted to highlight here what exactly is the difference between a traditional model and a foundation model. When I say foundation model, it's large language model, what I'm talking about, okay. For foundation model, if like you have a label data, okay, and then you say, okay, and there are different algorithms like classification, regression, personalization, forecasting, and translation, okay. So, for each of these kind of work, you need to create a different model, you need different set of data. Of course, you need some kind of data science people who can train all your, who can train your data, who can create those label data, who can create those ML models. This was the thing of past, okay? Most of the thing before 21 or 22, this was happening. But after 2021, one model which came is foundation model, okay? Now, these foundation model are trained on enormous data. When we say enormous data, it's almost like everything what you have on internet, okay? Now, when it has been trained on enormous data, it knows most of the thing. So that means for all this thing, it has already been trained. So you don't need to train it again, okay? And training a foundation model requires $1 billion. Sometimes you have seen, right? You have also heard, like, how much open AI for each model training, how much they are costing it to them, almost like $1 billion, sometimes more than that, okay? So unlabeled data is there, foundation model is there, you just pass the data and it can do all the things for you. So for an enterprise, it's a boon. If you see, for a business, it's a boon. Why? Because ultimately you don't need to create ML models for your automation. One model is there, you got a subscription-based pricing and you can automate the process, okay? This is what's happening right now. Okay, so a simple model, it's very simple, like there will be different layers. You will have input, you will have output. Then deep learning model, you have different layers of input and there will be simple output. In between there will be hidden layers. Why I'm talking about this? In a foundation layer, okay, you have multiple set of input, there are hidden layers. So if you feel like between input and output there, you are seeing there are a lot of red dots there. Generally we call it neurons, okay? Each red dot represents a neuron, okay? And each layer between input and output are called hidden layers, okay? So we'll refer it as hidden layers. So most of the time in a complex foundation model, these hidden layers are more than 80, sometimes 100. Nowadays, even 150 layers models are coming. More number of layers, more number of weights means it will have a better, what you can say, reasoning capability. It can answer you better way. Why I'm saying this thing? Because in the next slide, I'm going to talk about how you can use these foundation models to get desired output, okay? So there are 4 ways by which you can get desired output from these foundation model. And from left to right, if you go, means it will require more effort and more cost, okay? The first one is prompt engineering. So that means you are not training the model, you are just giving an instruction to the model. And each instruction is counted as prompt, okay? So, and there are prompt engineering technique. I heard like, ICAI have, I think level 1 courses in which they are teaching you like, what are the techniques for prompt engineering. So those are quite necessary. For, for some of the initial use cases or for some of the simple use cases, those prompt engineering can work for you, okay? Of course, you are not training the model, but you have to understand what kind of, how to write those prompts. Now, one important thing is, see, if you see most of the foundation models, okay? They charge you based on number of tokens. I mean, you will feel, go to OpenAI, go to, let's say, Gemini, okay, or even for Amazon, I mean, it's Nova models, okay? So generally, I mean, of course, I mean, some of you might have only used this, the Go plan or the Gemini Pro plan, you might have not seen it, but if you are building an enterprise application, okay, and then you go to their pricing page, they will tell you that, you know, what is the pricing of input token, what is the pricing of output token. So generally, you can say, I can just give you an example. For example, you have Anthropic model, okay, which is Claude Anthropic, okay. Their latest version is 4.5. So let's talk about 4.5 Sonnet, okay, which is more than 5 trillion kind of, you know, kind of model, okay. They are charging you $18 per 1 million token. Means for 1 million words, you will be charged 1,000 rupees. And not 1,000, I think 18 into 9, 1,600 rupees, around 1,600 rupees. So the thing is, you can say like, you know, I have written only 4 lines. My question was only 4 lines, okay? So I mean, my input token was only 50 words. It doesn't work like that, okay? So generally it's more like, you know, you have your questions, then, you know, then it do analyze something. From hidden layers, it gets some output. So both input and output token will be counted. And then you will ask those follow-up questions. So your first question and your second question will be combined again to pass that context, okay? So the more follow-up question you will ask, you will see your cost is going exponentially, you know, it is exponentially increasing. So there are techniques for prompt engineering again, okay? And just don't think about, you know, what you are saying with those public pricing of those, you know, OpenAI or Gemini, but they're for enterprise, it's a token-based pricing. The second and most important thing is RAG. This is where industry is heading, okay? RAG, we'll discuss more about this RAG in next slide. So ultimately in the first 2 approach, we are not changing the model at all, okay? There are ways by which we can get the information without training the model itself. Now, why RAG is important, just give you an example. As I said, like, you know, these models are trained on a schedule. For example, whatever, I mean, was the last release of, let's say, OpenAI, it was, I think, day before yesterday. They must have trained it almost like, let's say, 15 days before that, because they might be doing some kind of testing. So let's assume that they have actually finished training of the latest model by 1st of December. So that means your model have information of all the data or most of the data which was there on 1st of December. But information is changing every day. So now the model was trained on 1st of December and today is almost like what? 12th December, 13th December, right? So model will always be trained on older data. They do not always have latest information. Now, if you want model to predict based on latest information, you need RAG. We'll go a little bit in detail on this RAG part. Then the fine tuning and train model from scratch. And that's where some of the good news I have, okay? So now fine tuning, I mean, in the earlier slide, I was talking about like, you know, model have multiple layers, okay? They may have 80 layers, 100 layers. In fine tuning, generally you are changing the weight of the model. That means whatever understanding it has, you are changing it. So based on your domain data. For example, let's say I'm a company, I want my model to predict or to give me answer based on my company data or my particular domain. Then I need to polish it based on my domain. That's where I am going to train this model on some of the, on the data particular to my domain. For example, it can be a medical domain, it can be a chartered, you know, a finance domain. For fine tuning, if there, we are not training the complete model, but we are training some layers of it. And last one is training finance, the foundation model from scratch. So again, it will, those large companies like OpenAI, Google or Amazon, they are actually doing it, but it have a lot of cost implications. Now, I mean, before going to the next slide, now what we are seeing nowadays, okay, we are seeing that in foundation model business, okay, there will be few companies which may survive. Sooner or later, it won't be like a 10-player industry. It will be like 3 or 4 players. Maybe Google, maybe Amazon, maybe Microsoft, maybe OpenAI, and maybe Cloud. Okay. So that market is going to be packed anyhow, because ultimately it's not everyone cup of tea to train all these foundation model. Now where industry is heading? Industry is heading towards FLM, which is a small language model. What I mean by FLM, and that's where Amazon is actually, trying to provide it all its service, so that every enterprise can have its own foundation model, which can give answers based on its own domain or its own data. So just imagine that right now there is one large language model. In future, it will be every enterprise will have its own large language model. And why this is possible? You can say, you can or argue that training these large language models are quite expensive. Okay. But there are techniques, generally we call it distillation, okay, where a large language model is training a small language model, okay, which is quite cheaper. Now, few days back only, Amazon has announced a service called Nova Forge, okay. So, Amazon Nova is kind of a large language model. It's a large language model, and it's almost like in a trillion parameter kind of range. And they are saying that if you want to train your own large language model, use my base model, use your data, and you can train your FLM at a very lower cost. And this has been announced only last week itself. Okay. So just think that, I mean, most of the bigger CSP provider like us, okay, they are actually providing this kind of service that every organization sooner or later will have this kind of large language model. So just imagine, today it is today it is announced for, let's say, some enterprise. Tomorrow it can be for some firm also, like, that each firm will have a small language model. For example, in your case, you have you have a chartered accountant firm. Tomorrow it may become so cheaper that you can create your own large language model, or you can train your large language model. It can predict you. We never know, but right now the cost has reduced drastically to train this model. Okay, retrieval augmentation generation, which is RAG, what I was talking about, which is one of the primary topic here. Then we'll move to some of the financial use cases. So again, as I said, this RAG is important because your large language model is not trained on the current data. Okay, you have your organization data, or it is trained only on publicly available data. It is not trained on data which is private to a company, private to an enterprise. Okay, so this RAG solves this problem. Okay, what we generally do, this can be answered with this diagram. So generally what happens that if you are using this ChatGPT, or if let's say you are using Gemini, then you have this user who is asking the query, and it is giving you a response. But if you will ask, what is the financial record of my company for this annual, summarize the annual achievement of the company, whether it will be able to answer, the answer is no. Because that statement may be very much private to your company. Your model might not be knowing this kind of statement, or it do not have this answer. So what you are going to do, you will be creating a document store. We generally call it knowledge base. Okay. So your new data will be coming. You store it in a document store, and there will be an embedding model. So what this embedding model will be doing, it will be taking your text data, it will converting that in numerical format, because ultimately everything happens on probability and numerical matching. And then these matching will be stored, or these numerical data will be stored in a vector database. Okay, vector database is something which is very much, kind of a database, but generally stores data in a matrix form, and it generally gives you output quite faster. And then, if let's say now user will ask the query, your query will again go to an embedding model. And then embedding means like that vector representation of your query will be mapped with this vector store. Vector store will give you an output. That output and your query, will be combined and sent to large language model for the answer. Okay. So now if you see, your question was only, let's say, one-liner or two-liner. Okay. But if you see here, in that prompt augmentation phase, number of tokens has increased significantly. Okay, you might think why I'm charging this, why this model is charging me a lot. Because ultimately vector store, for example, for your four-liner query might have get a document of, let's say, 100 pages. That 100 pages document along with that query will go to large language model. So large language model, your input token will be huge. Okay. So that's how when you design this kind of solution, I mean, this is something which is most of the industry, I mean, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is finance, whether it is banking, this is something what everyone is building right now. And this is what Somaji has said, like, most of the thing, probably their use cases is also, created based on this terminology. Now, with this architecture, you will be able to get all those answers. Even if you go to Gemini, Gemini is also actually a kind of a RAG system. What they are doing, their model is trained on, let's say, older data. And then, of course, they have this knowledge base of, what you can say, current data as well. So behind the scene, actually, whatever Gemini is giving you an answer is actually a RAG-based solution, what Gemini is giving. Now, if you see, I mean, we are hearing this kind of agents also, like, there is something called agents also. This part, okay, where I have highlighted this as red, is actually called an agentic behavior. And what exactly an agent is? This is what is carrying most of the people, but making, putting a smile on enterprises. It's an autonomous software which is intelligent enough to take decision. And it is taking decision based on large language model input. It can automate most of the thing. And I can just say, like, you might have heard about this LangChain, LangGraph, okay, which is the technology which is used to develop this kind of agents, okay. Amazon has also released an agentic framework which is Strengths, okay. So agents are something which is actually helping industry to automate everything. And most of these things is like, when to see the knowledge base, when to take decision, what decision to take, that is done by an agent. And there are frameworks by which you can automate it. So, just one line here, the industry is heading towards autonomous agents, okay? Even in my industry, I mean, in my tech industry right now, most of the coding, even initially we were asking what is the solution of this. Now it's like, do your code, put it in GitHub, I will just review it one time, even I skip it sometime, okay? But ultimately, most of these autonomous agents, they are able to perform a lot of tasks right now. And this is the situation in 2025, December. What will be the situation after 2025? Nobody can predict. It's just that people are thinking right now that training these model or getting inference from these model, it's quite costlier, okay? And apart from that, it requires a lot of energy or a lot of water, okay? So people are just seeing whether it's financially viable or not. Most probably, they will find out some way, because ultimately it makes, a lot of people life quite easy. But yeah, this is where industry is moving on. We'll have some use cases in finance, okay? I will give you in brief, and then we'll talk about, what kind of AWS services it is there to build those agents or to build those large language models, okay? Now, in Gen AI, generally we call it Gen AI or generative BI, those visualization tool or those BI tools, they also have now generative AI capability. So if let's say you want to create some kind of reports, okay, and you just want to create it via NLP, you just want to give an instruction, you are not a developer, there are tools available by which, you just give them a statement in English or NLP. Sooner or later it will also come in Hindi as well, okay. You just say that, okay, tell me or build me this report. What was the, why this sales was down in, let's say, 15% last year. So all these answers right now can be provided by using Gen AI and Gen BI. Most of the time, if let's say you want to take a decision, so nowadays there are a lot of tools which can accumulate all the data, publicly available data, into a data lake or data warehouse, and they are creating agents These agents are powered by a large language model which can take autonomous decision. For example, you can just see the stock market, okay? There are a lot of information there in NSE and BSE website, okay? People are getting those data, creating those automatic pipeline, which data is actually, pushed into those data lake and data warehouse, and then agents are running on that to predict whether, what will be the trend for this particular stock, whether it will be going up or going down. I'm just giving you an example, okay? People are trying to do this thing, and sooner or later, the accuracy aspect of it will be increased significantly. Of course, lot of document search we are seeing, right? That you have document, based on that document, you will be able to search it, okay? But we have seen that, at least in 2024, what I've seen that if you do document search for legal documents, where, you guys are quite an expert, okay? Those ChatGPT, OpenAI or large language model did not give better answer, but things are changing. I can just share you my experience. In 2024, when we did this kind of document search, accuracy was quite low, almost like 70 to 80%. But now, with the release of, let's say, Anthropic Sonnet 4.5 and Gemini 3.0, this accuracy has increased a lot, okay? So now it can understand the legal terminology quite well. It can give you a better accurate result. So some of the use cases where we are working on are actually Gen AI enabled insight generation. So again, you have data, and based on, because ultimately for all the reports, you might not want to go to a developer to create the report. You just want to give an NLP statement to get the answer. That can be definitely possible nowadays, and it's quite accurate also. We are doing it for many of the clients. Then, of course, the co-pilot work, we generally say, like, you have some query, you have some data, based on that, if you want to search, of course, it can do it. Then some of the thing is like the fin crime detection. Of course, you can see all the use cases. Some of you might have seen this thing, but some of the thing what I want to highlight is the fin crime detection. I was actually working with one of the prestigious government agency to identify the fin crime detection, okay? So we have our graph database where, let's say, you want to flag some transaction, which is, let's say, 10 lakh rupees, you want to flag, okay? And there are 50 accounts which are transferring, let's say, 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees to that account. Accumulative balance will be more than 10 lakh. That can be easily detectable now, okay? And we have seen, like, detection is one part, but when you flag a transaction, okay, people generally ask why you have flagged this thing. So now generative AI can also do the thing. They can also give you a complete reason why I am flagging this thing, what kind of weird behavior I am seeing. So it can also create a report for you. So those things are actually happening right now in India, okay? Then, of course, the OCR stuff we have all seen, like, you have bills, you want to just reimburse that thing. Most of the company, even in Amazon, okay, we generally, when we have to claim it, we just click the photo and upload it in our portal, and then automatically everything will be filled, okay? Whether it is handwritten, whether it is not handwritten, everything can be done. Even nowadays, Gen AI is so advanced that it can understand the doctor handwriting as well, which I think some of other doctors cannot understand, it can understand, okay? So there are multiple use cases. This Gen AI is actually, helping us, and these use cases are just growing, and this is just what I am working on right now, okay? And I think there are many experts like me who is working in this industry, and they are solving a lot of problems. As I said, it has started with 175 billion parameter as a large language model. Nowadays, you will see that there will be FLM which will have those kind of parameters. Every enterprise will own that kind of parameter. So I will just suggest, read these AI things. Of course, you have your courses. I have heard, like, you have level 1, level 2 courses. You have to get accustomed to those courses, because ultimately this is something which is real, okay? Nothing that हम लोग कहते हैं ना कि AI में क्या प्रॉब्लम है यार, अभी वो ये नहीं कर सकता, ठीक है, अभी नहीं कर सकता, कल करेगा कि नहीं इसका कोई गारंटी नहीं है, ठीक है? There was one statement from OpenAI CEO as well, right? That he is fearing that, his job will also be in line if he will make OpenAI that powerful. Okay, so yes, it's a real thing. Then now we'll discuss about what Amazon is doing there in generative AI stack. I have already talked about one service, which is Nova Forge, okay, where you can train your own SLM, okay, at a very cheap cost with a very good reasoning capability, okay. So generally nowadays few players are targeting that B2C market, and most of the players are targeting that B2B market, which is again providing large language model to large enterprise. Now in case of our generative AI stack, we have 3 layers. We provide infrastructure to train the model. We provide you an infrastructure or services to to build an agent. We provide vector database as well. And of course, we provide you services to create application on top of that LLM. So if you see here, this is what we have right now. For infrastructure, we have GPUs. Like Amazon or AWS is one of the largest, not one of the largest, the largest CSP provider right now across the world. We have GPUs. We have our chip, which can help you train your model. We generally call it Trainium and Inferencia. Then we have a service called SageMaker, where you can train your large language model and your normal classic machine learning model. Even I can just give you an example, like in India government is also trying to build their own large language model. This is right now getting trained in IIT Mumbai on AWS SageMaker. Okay, so this is right now happening. I mean, almost like last few months this is happening. Then some of the things which I want to highlight is the service called Bedrock, okay, which is something. So we have seen, like, which is something, the service is something which you might be using sooner or later. Now, you are seeing that every month or every couple of months you are seeing a new model which is coming on. And every model API is getting changed. Most of the time models API is getting changed. So every time you don't want to develop an application where, in 2-month cycle the model API is changed or model output input is changed. So this Bedrock is a wrapper on top of that, where you can choose whatever model you want to have. And then tomorrow, if let's say a new version of that model will come, or tomorrow if let's say you want to use a new model, you can use it with Bedrock. Okay. Of course, we have seen that responsible AI stuff, the guardrails, what we want model to output, where we want to restrict them. All those things is actually available in Bedrock. One of the major questions people generally ask, if I am using any large language model with my queries, whether these queries will be used to train this model later on or not. Okay, whether my data will be used later on to train the model. The answer is, with Bedrock, it's a big no. Whatever data you will have, okay, it will just answer it. It will never be used to train the model. Okay, and then we have QuickSuite, which is again a generative BI stuff, plus business development person, which is not a coder, can create agent from scratch without writing a single line of code. Okay, we have Q developer. Again, I've seen, like, you have vibe coding session here. So Q developer, or we call it Kiro right now. Okay, so this is used for vibe coding. Of course, this is for developers. And then we have Q in Connect, which is mostly like, the call center optimization. Okay, so this is right now available in AWS. So Bedrock thing, I mean, just wanted to show you this. You can choose the model, whatever you want. You can tomorrow, if let's say want to change the model, you develop your application on one model. Tomorrow you want to change the model, you can change it without writing any code. Of course, the pricing for that model will be applicable for you. Right now, Amazon Nova models are there, Anthropic models, Meta, Lumi, Stability, all these models are there. Gemini is going to be, Gemini is already announced that it is there in some of the regions, but in India it will be soon on Bedrock. Then OpenAI model will also be there on Bedrock very soon. Then, of course, I mean, So this is one thing. Second thing is, of course, with Bedrock, you can do that fine tuning and model distillation. So tomorrow, if let's say you want to build some small language model by getting training from some large language model, that is quite possible with Bedrock. Then you can build your agents and flows. So if you want to build agents and flows, that is possible. You have large prompt. If you want to optimize your prompt, that can also be done with Bedrock. And again, you don't need to write any code for this. It's just like click, click, click kind of thing. Okay. And then few things very important is prompt caching. Means if let's say you have asked a question previously and you want to repeat that question, okay? So that question will not go as a prompt input to the LLM. It will see whether it is there in cache or not. It will give you an output. That way it will save you the cost. Few more things is LLM as judge. So you want to see which LLM is good for you, okay? So there are 5 large language models. When you want to say for my particular questions, this particular LLM is giving me a better answer. That kind of choices, LLM as a judge can give you an answer. I mean, can help you. Okay. So this is what Bedrock is there. On top of that, as I said, Nova Forge is already there, which can help you train the model based on Amazon Nova model itself. Of course, guardrails are there, and it is from security perspective, GDPR, SOC, ISO, CSA, and HIPAA compliant. So this is just a screenshot for Gen BI stuff. Of course, you can ask queries here. I mean, so you see like ask you to build. On top of that, you can see. So on your visualization, you can ask those NLP queries, your natural language query. It will be able to answer. And then, of course, it can understand this kind of handwriting as well. I mean, nowadays models are so smart, it can understand your handwriting as well. I mean, video is there, but quite possible. We have tested it with doctor handwriting as well, because in the healthcare domain, this has been a common ask. The CAD design. I mean, CAD design is quite complex. Nowadays, model can also understand CAD design, which is, you can just think, what is the capability of a model right now? It can understand the CAD design. If some malfunctioning is happening in one machine, it can tell you, okay, where this malfunctioning is happening, or what is the probable chance of this thing. So model can also understand the complex CAD design right now. Thank you. That's all from my side.